And officially, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day, and good Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. And this is actually going to be a fun class for me because actually most of the ideas from this class is a and notes today are a combination of it's really a little bit of me inspired by an arrangement that I've heard Jerome kind of do on and off. He kind of tweaks it a little bit. Don't hand that out yet. Um, I'll let you know when it's time. And a special musical handwritten page by the fabulous Don Casanova.
Yep.
Oh, yes. So I'll tell you about that. But before we get started, I'm going to put this up on the screen. And again, what you're going to see, I'm going to type it out for you or handwrite it out and post it. But I'm going to encourage you to just write what you see here. So if you haven't been doing that yet, it's on my dry erase board. I took a picture of my dry erase board, and it looks like this. All right, y'all see that there? So take a minute and write out those notes because those are going to be kind of it's going to be kind of like a guideline, a little bit of a map. It's not exact, but it's just a simple little map on how we're going to do the introduction. So while you're doing that, I'm going to pull up the song here. Oh, I had it ready. Of course, it's gone because I restarted my computer. Let's see here. Apple Music. Uh, there it is. Okay. So take a minute, just write some of those notes down. It's going to be a good little way to help you with a little bit of an introduction. Now, there's been a lot of rumors as to what the song is about. I'm not going to go over all of the song facts because there is many. Let's see if I found them. You know, I had a couple weeks ago. We had a student tell us what he heard, and I liked his story better. Although he called me the other day, and he confirmed that it was not accurate. And I said, "Well, I like your story better." It was something about they were traveling to California and they stayed at a hotel, and he says that's what he heard, but that's not true. In fact, if you go to the song facts, they say written by Don Felder, Glenn Fry, and Don Henley. The song is about materialism and excess. California is used as the setting, but it can relate to anywhere in America. Don Henley in London, Daily Mail, November 9th, 2007, said, some of the wilder interpretations of that song have been amazing. It was really about the excess of American culture and certain girls we knew, but it was also about the uneasy balance between art and commerce. And if you look up song facts on that, there's all sorts of different things on that and goes on and on. So it had nothing to do with being at a hotel. And there were some words in there that they was talking to. They thought the people were talking. He was talking about drugs. You know, when he talks about when he uses the words. The lyric warm smell of colitas is often interpreted as a sexual slang or a reference to marijuana. When we asked Don Felder about the term, he said the colitas is a plant that grows in the desert that blooms at night and is a kind of pungent, almost funky smell. Don Henley came up with a lot of lyrics for that song, and he came up with colitas. So, a lot of things. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away this screen share for a moment. Okay, I'll bring it back up again a little bit in a little bit. And I'm going to pause the well, maybe I shouldn't. I don't think I'm going to be able to do anything. But I'm going to pull up the music. There's two versions of this song. Well, there's actually many, but the two popular versions is the one that most people have heard, Hotel California, done by the Eagles originally, and it's got a little bit of a rock feel to it, obviously. And if you listen to the guitar playing, it's. Let me see if I can get this going here. Just play the first. Let me see here. Okay. Maybe pause that because you probably don't hear it yet, but let me screen share, stop the screen share, and I'm going to go to my music and just play the first few notes of the recording. Sound, optimize for video maybe. And where's my music? There it is. All right, so tell me if you guys can hear this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, it doesn't have to be perfect, but let me just get to the, that's the introduction. Rising up through the air, up ahead, so if you hear that version, you know, it's got a little bit of rock, but it's almost got a little bit of reggae feel to it too, right? But if you, the one it was redone, MTV once upon, I don't know if they still do it, but does anybody know if they still do Unplugged? Well, way back, when I was really into watching MTV and I didn't have responsibilities, get off of school, but they one time had all these bands come and they'd have guest appearances, and we're talking bands like that were known for hard rock, and the only way they can perform in this Unplugged was unplugged, meaning strip down all of the electric guitars and sometimes the drums, and just make it, you know, very basic and acoustic, and, you know, strip it down. And so this version was done. I don't know what year it was. Looks like 1994. Let's see if I can find it here. Remastered live MTV. I think this is it right here. You can see it's nice and slow and kind of moving. It's got a little bit of Latin feel to it. All right, I'll stop it right there. So anyway, so what I had on the screen share there a minute ago with those notes are notes. There aren't exactly you know, because there's a long, it's about a 2.5 minute introduction. There's some guitar playing. There's some, you know, a little bit of soloing in there. But what I did is I gave you the chord structure that actually follows the music. So if you look at your music, a Hotel California, and what I had on the screen originally, which was this. All right. You'll notice that A, E, G, D. I didn't put A minor, E minor, or E. There's a reason for that. F, C, D minor, and E. Okay. I'll come back to that in a minute. But if you look at your music, and it was in the email, so if you don't have it printed out, you can go back to your email and print it out. If you look at the music, you'll see it says A minor, E, G, D, F, C, D minor, and then E, okay? It follows that. All right, and the idea here is if you're using those notes, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for you folks on Zoomland. Let's see. How do I spotlight? All right. Okay. So and for you folks back here, what I'll do is I'll put this on. You can kind of see. But what I did is I just took those notes that I put on there, and the black note that's written on that page is meant to be played on the top keyboard. Now I'll tell you the sound I'm using. It's real basic, simple Latin guitar type sound, but it's meant to play it on the top keyboard. Okay? Not the chord, just the note. So instead of A minor, you'd hit A, and then you take your other notes, the blue notes that were on that screen share, and you would basically, you don't have to play them exact. You can rotate the notes however you want. And if you really, and you can do it two ways. If you listen to the song, their live version, maybe you want to start off without the drum effect, or maybe you want to do without the drum effect and with the drum effect, or maybe you want to do just with the drum. You can do it however you want, okay? But let me play the notes first, and you just... And if I play this 10 times, I'm not going to play it the same way each time. It's going to be a little bit different. It's meant to be free form and play the notes. But the key is, for your left hand, instead of playing the A chord on the bottom, play the A note on top. And the next one is an E, so I play the E. And then those notes... You can start the song. Now I'll go over the arrangement in a little bit, or you can do the same thing and then maybe bring in the drummer. Same thing.
That's fine. I just thought I'd check. It's like Fidelity's checking my Fidelity account. I think I might have had it then. So.
Oh, finding out about somebody's Fidelity account. So I will mute that.
No, next Thursday.
There we go. All right. So now here's what's really cool about this. Okay, this song. The easy play music is actually in the key of A minor, as you can tell, right? That's the way the easy play is written. When I listen to the live version that I just played a few minutes ago, it's actually it's actually in B minor, which is a weird key for guitar playing, so I don't know if they use capos or what have you. So I transposed it up on my screen here to D. Okay, now if you don't transpose it up and you just play on whatever key the organ comes on, it's fine. I played it both ways and it sounded great. The only reason why I did that is because there were some spots that I was trying to play along with it and I wanted to be in the same key. So if you want, optionally transpose the organ and have it put into D. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you the sound in a second and the setup, the first setup in a second. But because the music that we're using, the easy play music, is in the key of A minor, relative minor, anybody know what the major key that is? They didn't hear you, but I'm going to see if anyone out there guess. Anybody know? A minor that's not the key of A minor. Every minor key has that's the relative minor. The actual key means it's in the key of C. Okay? That's a good thing, because if you take these notes that I put up on the screen, and that's up here on this dry erase board here, if you find yourself playing those notes and you don't play those notes, you play other notes, it's okay. It allows you to ad-lib as much as you like. Okay? So, in other words, watch the hands. I'll play the notes that I see. But if you want to get creative, you can play those notes. And don't play them all at a time. You run them like a kind of a cascade, but going up. But if you want to get creative, you can add other notes. Just play the white notes. And then maybe go to the next one. And if you goof up and you just keep going, probably thought I did that on purpose, didn't you? I did, but there was no method to what notes I was playing. It's almost foolproof. So you could really have some fun with this. Use the notes that were given as a roadmap. Okay? You can and play them in a cascading, but we're cascading up instead of down like some of the organs do, right? And then if you want to add other little notes in there, you can get creative with the white notes, but if as long as you end on one of the notes that you see, as long as you end up on one of those notes, so you can do A, E, C, E, and then if you want to add some of the other notes in there, just end up on one of those, and it's always going to sound good. Okay? Now, before I go into some setup, anybody have any questions? Now's a good time to ask. Go ahead. Who said that?
Looking at the note of the second, E, G sharp, B, D, and you have E in parentheses. Why?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm surprised nobody asked. Okay, so if you notice, I put an E note in parentheses. That's kind of an additional note that I added in there that if you wanted to use it. So in the first one, I put A, and then E, A, C, E. And then the second one, E, G sharp, yeah. And then if you want to add the E in, you can. But it kind of goes back to what I was saying. You could add almost any note and just keep it moving. And then go to the next one. Okay? So it was kind of like an optional note if you want to play. And you'll notice that some of it follows a little bit of the music as well. So the setup that I used in the very beginning, I'll put it up on the screen here. The sound that I'm using? Oh, well, I'll tell you. Let me get it up on the screen. Now, the first setup is kind of almost pretty much there. The rest of the setups I didn't type. I didn't have time. But I will get it done. Okay, so first let me tell you what I used. What I did is I set up a 16 beat. Now optionally, I did a test class about 2 weeks ago, didn't I? My students were guinea pigs. And I was testing out some of the setups. Optionally, you can use a Latin style, but this is very important. And when I post the presets, when I get them all finished and completed, I'm going to give you actually 3 versions. One that you're going to hear today. The second one is going to be, I'm working on it right now. And then the third one's going to be a bonus one that I don't have time to discuss because it went away, so I have to redo it. I was going to mention it, but that's okay. It's always nice to have bonus things. Now, you'll notice I think I put their 16-beat standard, okay? There's a lot of rhythms that are considered 16-beat. A lot of organs have 16-beat, okay? And basically, it just sounds like this. It's counting as 16 beats, but most people don't hear it that way. You hear it as 1, 2, 3. Some people hear it as 1, 2, 3. 1, yeah, wait, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I forget. Sometimes you can count it as 3, 4. Is that ballad triplets? Anyway, so 16-beat standard, and you'll notice that the tempo is at 70. Okay? If you decide to use a Latin style, my first go-to Latin style would be the Latin guitar. There's a rhythm style called Latin guitar. If you have guitarist styles, Latin guitar. However, make sure I grab your attention on this one. Don't play it at 70. It's going to be way too slow. No. Was it 86 we did last time? I changed it, I think. Let me see. I did, but I could be wrong. Remember, I had to redo all these this morning on the fly. All right, so here, this. Okay, now my students are saying I told them 86. I think 2 weeks ago I said 86, and that might work, but I actually put a 101 here. Well, let me play it a couple notes, and you be the judge, because if you're going to play it, it doesn't matter what tempo. If you want to put it at 150 and play it, you play at 150. I'm not going to be in your house saying, no, you did it and didn't do it at 101. But let's see. So 101 works. What was the other one that I said? Let's try. They're saying I said 86 last time. Let's see. I like 101. See, that's why I had to test it out in you. And the right answer is whatever one you want to play, because you can do a nice slow version of that if you'd like, a much slower. If you listen to the original and the unplugged version on MTV, it was much slower. It was supposed to be more sultry and, you know. All right. Now, I'm going to leave this up for a second and talk about this, and then the rest of the setups I'm going to have to verbally tell you what I did, so take good notes. But I started off with a Latin category, coincidentally, but I did make some changes. Okay, so if you use your Latin category preset, it basically sets up a real nice Latin guitar sound. It sets up the flamenco. Now you can use flamenco. Some of you may have Spanish guitar. If you don't have flamenco, guitar flamenco. Now, if you put on Latin category setup, number 2, on your screen, what you'll notice is you'll see, it'll say on the screen, and I'll show you in a second on Zoom here. But on the screen, it'll say flamenco/ping. Ping exclamation point. You see that up there? Okay, I'm going to show them in a second. And I'll bring this back. Okay. So I'm going to change my camera view for a moment, folks, so you can see this. I'm going to zoom in. I don't know how good that is, but it's as far as I can go. So if you notice on the screen, it says, if you could see it on your video screen, it says flamenco/ping, okay? The reason why it says that is because I borrowed that preset and I redid them, okay? Now, here's what I discovered. Now, being a guitar player, I can't explain this. Anybody play guitar out there? Show of hands, or used to, tried it? I picked up the guitar very nicely. On the guitar, there's a terminology, I think they still use it, but I did. It's called harmonic. And what a harmonic is if you play the notes on the guitar, I need to bring my guitar and do this one day, but it's real simple. But guitar is commonly played way back. It was E and A, and you know those are very common chords. But the guitar sound, if you play, you have to press your note on the fret to get a note. Okay, so you have the frets, and then in between the frets, you actually play the note. If you take your finger and you rest your finger on the strings. Okay, but don't press down. You just rest them on the strings, and you do it at a certain fret, and you play the strings. you get what a lot of guitar players call a harmonic. And it almost makes the notes you're playing, bless you, the notes you're playing like 2 octaves up. It's a real pretty sound. Okay? But the trick is you have to do it at certain frets. It won't work on every fret. So if you're playing a song in the key of E minor, actually the key of G, but you're playing in E minor, it's very commonly used. The 3rd fret, the 5th fret, I want to say the 12th fret and another one. And you get this real pretty, it'll work. You got to play and hit it just right. Well, ping was the answer to that. So if you put on Latin guitar, Latin category, sorry, preset number 2, it starts off with a guitar on the top keyboard. Oh, sorry, that's not, there it is. Latin 0, sorry, I stand corrected. Latin category preset 0. It says flamenco ping. So here's guitar on the top. That's pretty loud. And then on the bottom, you hear that? Now, because they put that on the keyboard, it works in any key. But what I discovered is if you put the keyboard touch feature on and you play your notes, and you play them very softly, you get a guitar. And if you just play it and hit it a little harder, it'll naturally do that little harmonic effect for you. So it's pretty clever. All right. So back to my setup. So on setup number 1, which is what I use to build my arrangement, I put on, actually that's wrong, Latin 0. All right. So I did Latin 0, and then what I did is I took that guitar sound, I put flamenco 1 and flamenco 2 together. And I put the keyboard touch feature on. So when you hear this, all right, here's the flamenco guitar number 1. Okay, now let me turn that off. Here's flamenco guitar number 2. Flamenco, what is it? Guitar flamenco 2. You hear that harmonic effect? But it only works like that if you're using the dynamic keying or your touch feature. When you put them both together, it's disguised and you get this. So it's not as dominant, you know, it's not extremely noticeable, which is what the intent was. I wanted it to be just slightly noticeable. So when you played your guitar, you didn't have bing, 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 bing all the time. But you put the two together, put the touch feature on, and you get just a nice, pretty guitar sound. Isn't that nice? And the keyboard touch, all right? So we got the rhythm. We got the sound on the top keyboard. And I did one extra little thing. In your instrument, a lot of you have this feature. If you don't have this feature, it's not the end of the world, okay? It's kind of like just a little extra. I only use it in the very beginning for maybe 4 measures. So you go to your feature. There's a feature called drum, key drums. I know I saw it, and I probably passed it. There it is. There's one called key drums. And when you select it, this is a feature that doesn't get used a lot. When you select it, there's drum kits that show up on the screen. Main kit, orchestral kit, novelty kit, standard MIDI kit, and one of them is Latin kit. And when you activate it and turn it on, down at the bottom keyboard here, you get drum effects, in this case, wrapped around Latin. A punch is Latin? I don't know why that one's part of the Latin. Do a lot of Latin people in music punch each other? I guess, I guess that's one. That's a Latin drum effect. I don't know. But anyway, but the one I use, I focus on three keys. When you
Oh.
set up when you set up that when you set that up,
Oh,
when you set that up on the bottom, the last octave, the D, E flat, and the E. I don't know what's on C sharp here, D flat. Oh, and maybe C. So C, D, E flat, and E. Just some basic percussion sounds. So when I start off the rhythm, I start off with a no chord. So the drummer's just kind of going, right? And then I might do, I don't think I like that C one. I like the three notes where you could just D, E flat, and E. They're kind of subtle. That's all I really used it for, boy. But you know, you do that, you're now a professional arranger. Okay? So, back to the beginning. So, when you do this, you have a couple ways you can do this. Actually, 4 ways, I think. One, like I played in the song, you could start off with a guitar, no background. And you notice I'm just playing notes. And then you end up back on the main notes that I showed you. I'm just making them up as I go. Sounds good, right? And then the next one is what? Can't see. What? First one is A, and then this E. Okay, and then I go to E and do those 3 notes, and maybe add some other ones. G. And if you really want to show off, you kind of, and then end up back on G. And then the next one's D, F. Play those notes, break them up, play them as fast as you can. Slow it down. I'm not into C yet. I just don't feel it yet. Then C. Oh, that's a pretty chord, isn't that? You gotta make the face, look at have some people over, and then look at them. And then the last chord is D minor.
E.
Oh, minor, look serious. Look surprised with the E. And then maybe bring the drummer in. No chord. And then play the same thing again. Now, if you don't want to play all those notes, you're like, I'm not really that. Something else you can do is just get the drummer going, play the note, and then play a little bit of the melody. And you can use that as an introduction. And then yeah, it should be just a D.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, not D minor.
No, I was just putting the note. I don't know what happened.
Mhm.
I made a mistake. Okay. So anyway, so you'd have some fun with that. Okay? Now I have to take a picture of it and put it up.
Robert,
Yeah, so real quick, let me put it back up on the screen. So if you're writing this, when I type this out, it'll be correct. But see that D minor? Just pretend that doesn't exist.
Mhm.
It's just a note that you're playing. Now watch this. I'll put a little square there so it goes away. I have to do this live. Yeah, okay. I tell you, it could be, but we're not playing the chords. We're just playing the one note. The objective here is that if you're doing the guitar as an introduction, you're just playing the note on the top keyboard, and then the blue notes you're doing with your right hand, and there's no really particular order that you're doing them, okay? All right. So, then after that's done, I actually just start playing the song with the band. Okay? Now, if you go back to the original setup there, I think I had, if I see if I did it right. Again, I typed it up this morning. Let me see here. Okay, so if you notice in this first setup there, you'll notice I put 16 beat. I don't know if you could see that from there, but I'll tell you. 16 beat standard, tempo of 70, or you could use the Latin beat, the Latin guitar at whatever tempo works for you. Okay. This drum volume off, ignore that. It's standard. We'll just leave that like it is. Okay. Alter style. Now this part is accurate. I have alter style is off, but orchestra plus only. So if you have the Genie or basic, turn it off. And the same thing with the Latin guitar style. And here's why. When you listen to it, just listen to the rhythm. You hear that little piano, electric piano playing in the background? I kind of liked it that way. If you put on the basic, there's a guitar playing in there. You hear it? Okay. It wasn't so bad, but I didn't want it to come in just yet, okay? On the second setup, all I did was add the basic. So it goes from this. Okay, that's just the background. Now if I put on number one, hear the guitar come in. Okay. So I have that, and that brings in the guitar sound, and it just fills up a little bit. And so the first setup that I do, now if you notice this song, it's very repetitive in nature. The words change, but the melody does not. So if I pull up the song here, the first, if you have your music in front of you, the first setup happens here before I play the song. I use this chord progression as I use that first page to the second page. I use that as the basis of building my introduction. I used it for everything. And so my first setup, when I actually start to play the song, I do the first page, the first setup there, and then on the second page, the second setup starts where it says, "There she stood in the doorway." That's where the second setup happens. And there's nothing fancy except for I just bring in the genie and or the basic, depending on what you have. But on the third setup, you continue playing, and it goes to the part of the song where a lot of people recognize the chorus. Welcome to the Hotel California. So if you go to the third page where that F chord is, the third setup. Now I haven't typed this out yet, so I'll tell you what I did. Take good notes, and then I will make sure that those notes are available to everyone. When I say third setup, it's still very similar. I still have the guitar sound on, the flamenco guitar flamenco 1, but you'll notice something a little bit different in this. I'll finish the last part of the song on the second setup, and here we go. Turn my volume up and down, so hopefully it's not clipping. Is that okay out there? Still sound okay? Thumbs up, okay. So what I did is I added an electric piano with the guitar, and very subtle. It wasn't very dominant. Now here's without it. Just a nice little touch. It's called piano electric, so you have to go to your P's if you're looking for your piano sounds. Piano electric, and there's a variety of that you can do. The one I went back and forth on this. You ever pick a sound and you go back and and I sat there for like 10 minutes. Which one do I like? And I just picked one. It was called Piano Electric : D-Tune 2. Now I don't know why it's called that, but it sounds like this by itself. And then when you put in the guitar with it, okay, and then I added 16-foot strings just for effect. Here we go. Okay, pretty simple. But for those of you who haven't, I don't know if you hear it. I don't know if you hear it in there. Listen very closely. You'll notice sometimes when I play this part, I don't play all of the notes. So if you happen to have the Cascade as an extra little bonus, you can put on Cascade with the 4-part harmony. And what will happen is it'll very subtly cascade some additional notes. So watch. Okay, just a nice little extra touch in there. Now, the band, listen to the band. Here's the setup before the chorus. And I changed the band around. And all I simply did was put on drum variation. picks up a little bit. Okay? Okay. Now, if you get to the fourth page there, it tells you to repeat. So if you want to play the song all the way through again, my suggestion is just use the same setups in the beginning as you would up to here. One little extra little bonus here on this here. The setup that I'm on right now, the same one, try it with alter style and not drum variation, and you get this. Okay, and then if you really want it to really pick up, put both of them on and you have this. If you follow the rest of the music, you'll notice that it repeats quite a bit. You can redo the same setups everywhere, anywhere you want. Now, the last thing I want to tell you is if you listen to the song, they have these guitar solos and things like that. If you take the Jerome, can you hear me? You can hand those out now. Now, some of you, if you attended Dawn's classes, I think on Wednesday, isn't Wednesday the one she did the 70s class for a while?
Mhm.
Anybody can confirm that? I'm giving
Yes.
am I giving good information? Okay. This book is actually that I'm using. Oh, this is the Grammy book, but it's also in the 70s book, I believe. Isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's in the 70s book,
But
367.
one of the benefits of what I do when I put everything on Patreon is I get all of the materials that Don and Joni and everybody sends me, and I get to keep them all on my computer. And I was getting to this part. I heard Jerome. He was playing that guitar part. At the very end, there's that very popular solo that they do. Da-da-da-da-da. It's very arpeggio-related sounding. And I was trying to figure it out, and I went, you know what? Why do I need to do all this work? I already have it, because Don was nice enough to do it. So if I will post this again. It was on Patreon at some point, but I'll do it again. And so this is Don's version. As you can see there. And those notes. And so it goes. Now what I did with this is, the only thing that I did differently is I did add in my guitar sound to it the guitar electric rock. Okay, and you can do. Okay, so those notes are up there. I'll post this. If you don't have it yet, I'll make sure you all can get it. But if you want to dare to try it, it's basically going to look something like this. And I'm not even doing it exactly as I see it here. Whoops. I would do. Anyway, as you can see, I need to work on it as well. But you could have some fun with that. So, point is, when you get to the part of the song where you feel like, okay, I'm done playing this because there's so many repetitive, maybe do a little guitar solo and do that part. Or if you want to have some fun, take some of the notes that I gave you earlier and you can come up with your own. Just play the chord. You'll have to actually play the chord this time though. So if you want to know what the chords are, you follow the chord progression in the beginning. And actually what I'll do is when I put on my notes, I'll put what these chords are. So but you can do you can kind of do what I was saying earlier and just kind of randomly play those notes and in them however you want. But if you want to try the actual guitar solo that they did, use the handout that I just posted or put it on the screen.
Nice.
That's the ending. That's the beginning on the dry erase. I played it on the top keyboard. Well, at the very end, if I want to use that as a map, you have the rhythm going, you have to play the chord. If you're using the rhythm. But what I was doing in the beginning, I didn't have the background on. I might have had just a drummer. So you didn't need to play the chord. You didn't want to play the chord. Then you play the chord. And then you could say to yourself, oh, that's a little bit too much for me. Then don't do it and just play the song with the melody. It is a lot. I want to give you your money's worth. No refunds today, folks. No refunds. Okay, now what I'm going to do is play it all the way through. And I don't know how it's I don't know what I'm going to I kind of guess you could do this. I'm just going to do it. I'll end up with a guitar solo. I'll try. Okay? I'll start off without the drummer, and then I'll do it with the drummer, and I'll play it. But I'm not going to repeat it 5 or 6 times like it says here, but I will throw in the guitar solo. Before I play the song, any questions? So she has a question about the end of the song. It says DSDC, return to the beginning and fade. I think the reason why in this song, if your version says the same one as I see in the book here, does it say DC and fade, return to beginning and fade? Is that what it says? Okay. Because if you listen to the song, I think one of the recordings I heard, they sometimes, I don't know that they do the melody. If it was me, I would keep playing the chorus. If it was me, I would play the part that says, welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place. Da, da, da. I would just keep playing that and fade. Isn't that how they do it, one of their recordings? I wouldn't go to the beginning and fade. The answer is you could do whatever you want that you like. If you ask me, I'm not going to go back to the beginning and fade, because then I'm going to be playing the many fading. What I'm going to do is finish off with the solo, and then I'm going to hit my ending. I'm going to ignore what it says in the music. Okay? So I'm going to play it through, try to follow along, because what I'm telling you now, I may do it a little differently. You just never know. Sometimes we do this in the moment. Okay? All right. Are you ready? All right. But I do have these notes up here. All right. Again, anything that I've talked about today is going to all be typed up and posted. Okay? And it'll be on our Patreon page, and I'm going to make that public so anybody can go to that page and access it. Okay? So you can download all the notes that I end up doing. All right, so let's start it from the beginning. I got to make sure is the volume okay in there. I adjusted it a few times. My background guy, we lost him. We poked fun at him on the eating popcorn, and he left. He quit. Is that okay? That volume is not clipping? Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Thanks, Mike Bowler. You're hired. Jerome, you're fired. Mike's been there the whole time, right there.
Mike,
keeping
come
an
take my
eye, giving me
place.
thumbs up.
Hurry.
Okay, here we go. Again, the ending was written by Don. I want to make sure to give credit where credit is due. But the concept, this arrangement, I've heard Jerome do it many times, slightly different each time, and I always thought it was so beautiful. And then when I got down to doing it, I thought, this is actually a lot easier than most people think. And then I'm going to also go a step further, too, by the way. I forgot. I'm going to put them on presets for all the A series and the E's. So here we go. thank you, thank you. Any mistakes I made, I'll blame it on my thumb. It's not quite there yet. It's almost there. Well, anyway, so that's how I did it. So you notice I used the same setups, and then I didn't do it in the exact same order. You can kind of bounce around however you want. So here's what I'm going to do for everybody, since I didn't have it fully typed out and ready as I wanted. Once I get it all done, I'm going to post it on the Patreon site as well. And then I'll send out an email to everybody with all the attachments and the links, so you can, one way or the other, you can get it. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed today's class. It was fun for me. It's a great song. And as always, stay safe. Keep playing music. Always keep playing. And mwah, bye, everybody.
Hi.
And give Robert Roman a big round of applause. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, my goodness.